Okay, well, for those of you who haven't been to one of these events before, these happen twice a year. I'm Kara, your host, and this is our virtual book fair, made possible because of amazing sponsors like Rich, who you're going to see and hear from here in a second. But yeah, as a 11-time published author, I just love opportunities to bring authors together and learn from each other. So glad you're here. And I'm going to turn it over to Rich to chat with us a little bit about what he does to help authors. Let me
Thanks,
hit
Cara. Then,
this and I'll
gosh,
screen
this
share.
is how many of these have you done now? I think we've
Oh gosh,
sponsored
since
every one of them.
2023. So yeah, a few.
Well, they are so fun, and I appreciate being able to be a part of this. As Cara said, my name is Rich Wolf. I am one half of Wolf Design and Marketing, and we are proud to be celebrating our 10th year this year. And to date, we have helped over 600 independent authors. Since 2016, we've been working exclusively with authors. We're kind of the soup to nuts for indie authors. We kind of do it all. Um, you can go to our website to see what we, in more detail, what we do at wolfdesign.com, wolfdesignandmarketing.com. But one of the things I like to do in these presentations is kind of give you guys some food for thought, some information that you can take with you. And Car, if you could switch the slide over. Uh, Today, what I want to share with you guys is 5 ways that you can boost your discoverability. There are, gosh, 2 to 2.5 million books put up on Amazon every single year. To add to the 30 million books that are already on Amazon. So, I mean, publishing your book is your first step, but getting your book discovered is kind of where the real work kicks in. So here's kind of 5 things that you can do to boost your discoverability. And the first one is dialing in your metadata. And what is metadata? Metadata is everything that retailers and readers need to know about your book. And that subtitle, title, product description, the back of the book blurb, your categories, your keywords, all of those things need to be dialed into your specific readers and your genre. If you're not connecting with those people that want to read and should read your book are missing out. Next is reviews, reviews, reviews. And I put that up there 3 times for a reason, because it's the biggest trigger of the Amazon algorithm is reviews, next to obviously book sales. But reviews show the algorithm that your book is relevant and that readers trust what you're saying in your book. So it's the biggest way that the algorithms know who to put your book in front of. Third is a clear book hook. And what do I mean by a book hook? It's like an elevator pitch, right? Sometimes we only get a very few seconds to make a first impression on somebody. So be able to clearly explain to a potential reader what your book is about. I can't tell you how many times we talk to an author, and fiction people are probably worse at this than nonfiction people, but um, be able to cleanly and decisively tell somebody what your book is about and give them the information they need to go, wow, I want to learn more. I'm going to go buy your book. The next is multiple discovery paths. So, what I mean by that is being available in more than one retailer, having your book available on your website, doing multiple social media and sites. And that doesn't mean doing every social media site that's out there, but it means having a couple of different options that you're comfortable with and you use all the time. Accessing blogs, podcasts, newsletters, things like that. The more you can do to get your book out there, the more discoverable you are to potential new readers. And then finally is consistency over time. Most indie authors stop promoting their book after the first year because, quite frankly, it's a lot of work. So you got to remember your book's going to be out there forever. If you're using it to promote your career or your business or you're a speaker, you're going to be marketing your book for a long time. So go time over the long haul, and you can reach a lot more readers than if you just let your book sit out there. Because let's face it, a book, people aren't going to magically find your book. You've got to put the work in to get out there. So the bottom line is discoverability happens through strategy and momentum. So have a plan and work your plan to get your book discovered to more readers. Kari, you want to jump to the very last slide?
Mhm.
So some other ways we like to be useful to you guys as offering freebies. We have a YouTube channel called Wolf Sound Books. Kara's got a video in there about some things that happened with her book. Free to sign up. And then we also have an indie author guide that you can sign up free on our website. Uh, Most of the reader magnets out there are like 1 or 2 page checklists, things like that. Our Becoming an Indie Author guide is, I think it's 48 pages of information on self-publishing that is completely, totally free to you guys. If you ever have any questions about anything about indie publishing, would love to have a conversation with you. So thanks, and Cara, looking forward to seeing the presentations today.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Richard is definitely the go-to person when you have questions about anything about publishing. He's also what I consider an author advocate. So he's someone I recommend you all chat with, get to know. But thank you for making this event possible, Rich, with your help. So we're going to go to Ed, our first author of the five today. Ed is someone that I've known for a few years now, and I'm going to give him the floor to talk about multiple books that he's published. Ed, are you with us? In there somewhere.
Hey everyone, let me unmute. Happy
Yeah.
Tuesday afternoon to you. Carrie, can you prompt me with just a few questions that might be most helpful for the group today?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an opportunity to talk about the books you put out in the world, your publishing process, or even your authorship experience of what it's been like to put your books out there, your book babies, as I like to call them. And of
Yeah,
course, any advice you have for aspiring authors, because a lot of these folks that are going to watch this later potentially are curious about writing a book and want some advice.
that's awesome. Well, I think Rich really set me up well. I just flew back in this morning from La Crosse, Wisconsin, speaking at UW La Crosse to a group of personal financial planning students. And my subject in building my career is around couples and money and bringing psychology into the process of financial planning. And so my primary go-to book is this one. It's called The Healthy Love and Money Way. And its purpose is to provide guidance and support for couples to work together on their money. What makes it different in the marketplace is most personal finance books are written to an individual. But most of us do not live an individual life. Most of us live in a relational life and have to make financial decisions in relationship with others. And so my journey to being an author started with lots of graduate education, lots of ideas, and no idea how to bring them together. And so I started with authoring by just blogging my ideas and putting them out into the world and realizing, oh my God, no one's going to kill me for doing this. Like I had that imposter syndrome, irrational beliefs that people might. Y'all, my brain gets kind of dark. I'm just going to own it with this group. I don't know you guys well, but I know Kara well enough to know I can just be honest. My brain goes to dark places. It doesn't mean those dark places are real. It just means that that's where my brain goes. And so, like, for a lot of people that I'm talking to about becoming an author, is you have these irrational fears that are coming up. And if you suppress them or deny them, they will continue to ruin your writing career. But if you become aware of what yours are and when they're showing up, then you can develop some strategies to acknowledge them, set them aside, and get on with the writing process. And so that process of consistently blogging turned into like, oh, well, it turns out I do have a lot to say. And oh, now my ideas have come together in a more coherent way. I guess it's time for a book. And I responded to some Facebook ad that said, write your book in 90 days. And it's like, okay, I'll do it. And I signed up and went through the program and I got rolling. And because it was a story-based process, I was done in like 30 days. But then, being a first-time author, not knowing how the whole arc works, how do I get this manuscript published? Oh my God, what am I going to do? So now I'm listening to all the podcasts about how do you get your book published. And I ended up with a hybrid publisher that's in Charlotte that helped me package the book, get it edited to looking good, good cover design, yada, yada, yada. And then part of what Rich was saying is like, I had that mythical, like, well, my idea is brilliant. Everyone's going to love it. And because everyone's going to love it and it's brilliant, it's just going to magically become a number one bestseller. Again, more irrational thinking, more like, you know, not really understanding how the whole system works, despite what some people were trying to tell me. right? I didn't do a great job of listening that like you're gonna have to stay marketing this. So this book I think has been out, I'd have to check now, 6 years, 5 years, something like that. But that whole emotional journey of like it is an ongoing process, keep marketing it. It's not a main source of revenue for me, but it's opened up a lot of doors for speaking. It's opened up credibility with prospective clients. And so um, I would say that's book number one, and book number one led to part of Kara and I connecting. Kara, let me know if I'm going too long too. I can just shut myself off. Just put the hook on my neck and I'll go quiet. But I was looking to refine my process and get better as an author. And because once you write one book, you realize you can write another book. And so Kara and I, she offers a great writing program. So I went through that and got more clarity. And then I realized, you know what? I think we have something in common that we can write about. So we wrote a book together called Becoming a Financial Therapist. But this book was a very different approach because it wasn't either of our own independent knowledge per se. It was interviewing a bunch of our colleagues about becoming a financial therapist. So a very different book, very different target, but we had a blast collaborating on interviewing 20 of our colleagues about their experience of becoming a financial therapist and then writing the stories up in a compelling way, putting them together in a book, and we just self-published it. Kara has some great contacts with editing and formatting and book cover design, so she took the lead on that, and we published that, what, Kara, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, I don't know. And
November 2025. Yep.
let me just say, like New York Times bestseller list is coming for us right now. I'm just no, I'm just kidding, y'all. Our market for this book is like this big, but it's hyper relevant, and the people in our community are so appreciative of having it. And so it was really a passion-based book. So, I think I've got my third book. It's been in rough draft format for a while. I'm working through some other career things. Maybe I need to talk to Rich and get off my butt and get it published, but we'll see when that one comes out. But foreshadowing, it'll be the couple something around the couple's guide to financial intimacy. So, all that to say, I think hopefully you can hear my excitement for, yeah, it's fun, it's scary, it's overwhelming. Sometimes it's just downright boring, and on the whole, it's worth doing. So I'll stop there, Kara.
You're cracking me up. Yeah, I mean, no one said the author journey was easy, so it definitely has its highs and lows, which I'm sure we'll hear from other authors in today's event. For folks that are coming in, we are in the middle of our interview, and this is being recorded, so everyone can watch it back as they need to. But something else I love and appreciate about all the authors coming in is that they're all willing to share a copy of their book as part of a raffle today. So I will be putting our raffle winners into the chat, so make sure you're monitoring that as I'm also hyperlinking people's books and all the things. But thank you, Ed, for kicking us off with our first of five authors. And we're going to move to Morgan as our second author today.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a little bit nervous, not gonna lie. I put a book into the world that is it's not academically based, it's more of a memoir. And I just really appreciate the feedback about writing a hook. So I wrote it really quick, actually, while Richard was talking about that. So it's the book is about when the therapist turns the lens inwards. It's about examining childhood, motherhood, and healing through short poetic vignettes, and about learning to live differently than the generations before. Um, and so I just really feel like everybody has a story to tell. And I feel like I was on the other side of as a clinician supporting clients and really understanding that their voice is important. And then I was like, oh my gosh, maybe mine is too. And yes, of course it is, right? And that's something that I worked on in my own, my own personal work too, is finding kind of like an empowering way to share my story. And it has been a really incredible journey, I want to say, of figuring out an incredible community of support, starting with Kara's group that I did in September of 2024. And the words just came. I didn't even know that I wanted to write kind of like a memoir style book. I went into the book group knowing that I had something to say. I didn't know what it was. And it just kind of sprang forth, I guess, through my own kind of self energy, kind of feeling like it was the right time to share something that I've been wanting to. And so I shared it in the group, got good feedback from it, and then it just continued to build from there. So it at times really wanted to give up because of also feeling like imposter, not just I think even deeper than that, right? Like just feeling like the world maybe isn't aligned right now with, having a book such as this, which really names, I think, a lot of different kinds of abuse and power structures and things that are really hard to, I think, name and be with and witness. And so there's stories in there that I think are really heartbreaking and sad, but I tried to intersperse it with stories that were also really hopeful, how recovery and healing is possible. And sprinkled in a lot of the experience that I had with healing through IFS and internal family systems therapy. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm addressing all the questions, but I do really feel that it's been such a recent launch. I just had my book launch party in February, so it was actually, well, it was only like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'm barely getting my author voice here, but feeling really excited about it, and also feeling like a sense of okayness, right? Like it's not a book for everybody, and then that's okay. But having, again, like a community of support, a structure that I could use with the book writing group, as well as other therapists' feedback and the beta readers and all of that, just really helped me have this book baby. So to use Kara's term here, I actually do feel like it was a great way to be introduced to this work, and I do feel like there's maybe more books that are waiting to be written. I don't think I'm going to write another style of vignette memoir again, but I think I might do something more around interviewing colleagues around certain experiences and things like that. So appreciate Ed naming that earlier.
Any other advice you'd give folks that are thinking about writing a book, especially from a place of vulnerability, since yours is memoir style?
Yeah, I think just, gosh, what do I want to say about that? It does. I feel like for me, it required a lot of community support and self-work, right? Just checking myself, checking and making sure this felt like the right fit, right? The right choice. And also getting supportive folks to do the design and to do the editing, um, you know, and supportive doesn't always mean like an echo chamber. It's not like, oh yeah, this is a great book, like let's just pass it through, right? It's supportive, but in a way that felt, in a way, kind of like aligning with the mission of the book, right? It's working with folks who maybe understand and kind of get what message I'm trying to get across. So that meant, at first I had only therapist beta readers, and then I was like, okay, I probably need like other types of beta readers. So that was really helpful. And then like expanding some editing components to get different perspectives on making sure the voice was coming across in the way that I wanted. So yeah, I think just really being open to seeking out different resources and ways of publishing. It doesn't have to be just like this one way. And also just to name, I did do self-publishing through Ingram Sparks. And so yeah, I'm maybe going to reach out to Richard and see if I want to do a little bit more marketing. Again, like I'm getting that author voice still, but I do want to do maybe some more publicity around it in the future as I continue. It's good to hear that it maybe could continue beyond the first year, because I don't know how much time I have right now. So yeah,
That's a common thing with therapist authors, I believe, that you all have
yeah,
tons of moving parts going on. Uh-huh.
right.
Any questions for Morgan from the group? Things you want to know about her experience, Ingram Spark publishing? She also didn't name it as poetry, but as someone who's read her book, it is poetry. So I think that's kind of fun too. Different style with the memoir.
Thank you.
Questions? You put them in the chat if you'd like. Morgan, or unmute yourself, whatever's easier.
Question, can anyone hear me?
Yep. Hi, Jenny.
Hi there, good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Well, we can't see you, but we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. It might be a little scary, but all right. There's video. Okay. I do have a question for Morgan because I am working on a memoir type book as well in the area of grief. And I wonder how you decided that doing it in the vignette style was right for you.
Yeah, that's such a great question. Yeah, instead of doing the kind of chapters or just a regular format. Um, I felt like what I wanted to say was just really easily captured in just a small amount of time, a small portion of text. I had read, oh my gosh, now that it's escaping me, I can't remember. I'll have to send it in the chat in a minute, but it was another vignette book, and it was just like the most moving book. And
Oh,
I just thought, I feel like I could do this, right? Like I feel like I could do a vignette because I also have kind of some focusing issues. And so it felt like it was manageable to really capture the essence of what I was trying to say in that format. And it just felt right. Like I just felt like I would maybe belabor the point too much if I was expanding on and using more of like a chapter form or
and
like a
this
full
is,
manuscript.
and I'm not even sure if I know what vignette means. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm not sure the complete technical term, but I think it's like a kind of like a description of an experience in a short form.
Ah,
So like most of the pieces in the book, and I'll just show you the cover of it, but and then maybe, like one of the pieces and it's written in like a larger font because I wanted to have it be captured as like the dot printer from the 90s. So it's like kind of a millennial energy. But yeah, it's just like, it's like 2 pages per story. So, it's like a little bit of that formatting.
great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's shorter. Thank you.
Yeah, valid question. We have time for one more question for Morgan, if anyone has one. You want to show the cover again? I know you did colored pictures on the inside, all sorts of stuff. So very like
Yeah,
heartfelt book.
this is a cover. It's called From Shadows to Light, A Journey to Empowered Motherhood. And then yeah, I did do maybe like a couple of little scribbles in here, just kind of like a journal feel in a way. See if I can find one. It's pretty sparse because I kind of wanted it to look like, maybe what it would have like what my voice really felt like. And then I have just some pictures of me and my when I was younger and then when I'm older on like a mountain. So
Hmm.
um yeah, thanks for your questions and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. I'll continue to monitor the chat if there is another question upcoming for you, but we will give you a breather here and we're going to move to our third author of today's event, which is Lakeisha. So I'm going to introduce, like, we've only met on LinkedIn, so I'm excited to hear from you and bring you into the space.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm LaQuisha Clemens. I am excited to be here. I recently put out a book called Dear Therapist, You Deserve More. And the reason why I put that book out is as a trained licensed clinical social worker, somebody who was figuring out where I kind of fell in that counseling therapy space. I didn't really have anybody to point me in those directions or to kind of walk me through how things really work. It was just like, hey, you go to community, you get into community agency and you get burned out and get your full license. So I see some head nods, so some of you can relate. Um, so I wanted to uplift those newer upcoming students that were getting into that space and understand, have more support and know their worth and that you don't have to be burned out. You don't have to go that route and that there's different routes that you can go. Also, as I was searching for a niche, I felt like I had to get one. And I'm a financial therapist. And I, at one point, was like, oh, I'm gonna be a trauma therapist. And it wasn't really my calling. But you feel this need to be like, I need to get into something because that's what people tell you. And really, I have my own story when it came to money. And I was like, okay, this is the thing. Like this is actually the thing that's for me. So I wanted to get I got a bunch of authors, I got a bunch of other therapists, LCSWs and LMFTs to join me and put together some chapters about their own experiences. And we wrote what I would say like love letters to future and upcoming therapists about our journeys and what we did and how to overcome it. And also like how you can do what it is that you want to do in this world and in this life and when you're trying to start a career. Another thing, actually, when it comes to being an author, I in grade school was told I was like a bad writer, or I was led to believe that. I was led to believe I was one of the people that, in school, like, oh, like I'm not that great of a writer. I'm not gonna do good with those things. And these are those limiting beliefs that get pushed upon us, especially as we're young. And I want to also share that with people is like, look, you can really do and be whatever you want. I never thought that I could actually say that I'm an author. I never thought that day would come, and look at me now, right? So now, like that was also another reason why I wanted to put this book out. I initially started by doing a financial journal, which I did on my own, just kind of like Ed there, going down the rabbit hole of podcasts and YouTube and figuring out like how does the self-publishing thing work. And I initially did that, and that went off pretty well. And then I joined some other groups that had anthology groups that I had going on. So I was like, you know what, I think I could do this. I think I could do this. I will say I do believe that I'm going to put out another book, more of a solo book. I just don't know exactly what that is, and I'm okay with that. And along this journey, which is what I talk about with people, is I'm one where I kind of like I'm connecting the dots by seeing what's my calling, like what is it pulling me in this way or that way, and like I don't know if it's going to be a financial book or it's going to be like a social worky book or it's going to be like a memoir. I don't know. But I'm definitely interested in writing more. So I think that's a little bit about my background and about my book and the process.
Any advice you'd have for folks that are starting this journey?
Oh yeah. The advice that I would have is honestly to just do it. Like just sit down. If you are a pen and paper, do it with, start writing. Just start writing pen and paper. Who cares about the grammar? Like, don't even think about that. Just write it. Like, whatever's in your head that you're trying to get out, just write it. If you are a typer and you want to be on the computer typing, then just do that. So my advice is don't get caught up in those little things because that was my problem. I was not a I thought I needed to, make sure I don't have a run-on sentence and having my grammar right. And then I learned like no, like just put it out there. That's why you have the editors. That's why people go and they'll edit and they'll help you with that, but just put it on paper. And so just start writing, and it doesn't matter where you want to start. For some people I know like they'll start their kind of like at the back of the book and work their way up. So you just have to write. That would probably be my best advice, and an advice that I wish somebody would have told me when I started this journey is just get the thoughts out there on paper.
Beautiful. And I did put all of the author advice in our Dropbox chat link here for everybody who's with us right now. Any questions for LaQuisha so far? Burning questions from our audience.
I just put two in the chat, which is one, who
Oh,
edited the book? And
Oh,
what did you write it in? Was it in and actually be interested Rich's advice on this too at some point, like what, a Google Doc, or are there all sorts of different things?
mhm. Yeah, good question. So Greenheart Living is, I did a hybrid publishing, and she helped she helped me edit the book and actually helped me publish the book. And the reason why I went with her is because she's also a social worker. So I was very intentional writing a book that was going to be for other therapists. I really wanted to have somebody who's looking at this who also understands this field as well. So I was happy to have a social worker who's a publisher be able to edit my book and help me put it together. And then I wrote my book using a Google Docs. I was just on there typing away, and then I was able to share it with her, and she was able to make edits and comments and things like that.
Can I ask two follow-up questions then? One is, I get overwhelmed in Google Docs. Is there a way to keep it more organized, or do you do like a two-page thing kind of thing? And then how much did you spend? And actually be interested in everyone, how much they've spent on doing all of this. And I know Rich is here, so hopefully he'll respond at some point on that too.
Yeah, I think that's a preference. For me, I am all over the place in Google Docs, so I'll do like a title that I'm thinking, or just like my journey, and I'll just start typing it in there, and then maybe if I'm off of my journey and now I'm talking about where I'm at today, I may have like a title of that subheading and start just writing. I'm literally just writing it. And then I come back. Like once you get to the end, I come back and I'm looking at it all, reviewing it, reading it. I probably read my manuscript, I don't know, several times, a lot, a lot of times. And then it took me a few months actually to put it all together. So I would stop and start, like I would put it down, especially when I get what they call, I guess you could say like writer's fatigue, where I'm like, okay, my brain just couldn't take it anymore. And I'm like, all right, I have to like put this away for a little bit. And then I would come back, and I actually went on vacation because that refreshes me. I go on cruises, and I went on a cruise in my balcony room, and I sat there and on the balcony with the water in the background and was on my computer just like typing away, and it did wonders.
Awesome strategy. I know Ilana had other questions, and so we have just about 1 minute left of LaQuisha's time. So I don't know if anyone wants to answer the question that was posed. You can put it in the chat, or maybe Ilana can connect with you after. Any
Yeah,
other questions in our last 1 minute? Yeah, Rich.
Cara, if I could give you one, Alana, if you're having trouble with organization in organizing your book, I would highly recommend Scrivener. Scrivener it's a one-time download that allows you to write your book, outline your book, save research, put in notes, do all kinds of various things. And in terms of a format that editors prefer, like we always recommend our authors do everything in Microsoft Word, because Word has a great track changes program portion of it that editors can use to make changes and track all of that. So that's what we recommend that authors use. But again, you can see everybody has there's different ways of doing things for sure. But if organization is an issue for you, take a look at Scrivener. It's a great tool for writers.
Rich, can you put that in the chat when you have time? I'm like trying to spell it, and I feel like I found it, but I'm not 100% positive. So if you want to put that in the chat for us, that'd be
I'll put it in
helpful.
there. Let me make sure I get the spelling.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Well, I appreciate the 3 authors so far. We're moving to our 4th author next, which is Rachel. Rachel has written lots of books, and so excited to bring her on and have her share her story. Rachel, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm feeling so inspired by each of you in different ways and feeling a little imposter syndrome. Um, so as Cara said, I've written a number of books, mostly based around the Enneagram. So the one that I was going to focus on today was The Healing Through the Enneagram, a trauma-informed guide to self-understanding and growth. And it also has a companion workbook. I also have, so sorry, this one covers all 9 different Enneagram types. I also have healing guides for each specific Enneagram type. I have the Aligned Parent, which is all about parenting through your specific Enneagram lens, not the Enneagram of your child, because we typically don't type children, but how that shows up for you as a parent in your parenting style. And that also has type specific journals with them. I really love workbooks. They make me so happy. Um, so I have been interested in the Enneagram since 2012. That's when I first discovered it, and it just completely opened my own eyes into my own ways of thinking. It helped me understand more of my behaviors and things like that. I had a very elementary understanding of it at that time, but as the years have gone on and life has happened, I've been able to apply it and understand myself deeper, but then also level up and understand the people around me and why they do some of the things they do. And it's really opened my eyes to so many different things. And I use it in my therapy work as well as a trauma therapist. So when I set out to write these, I wanted workbooks that I could use with my clients. I like giving homework when someone's open to it, when they're interested in taking that journey, and having a specific workbook with laid out questions to guide them really is a shortcut for me as a therapist to have that available. So that's kind of how these were born. The process looked a lot like sitting on my couch in a bathrobe sometimes or whatever, looking pretty rough. And just typing away in Google Docs. My house was neglected. My children were fed and taken care of, but housework did not always happen, and that was okay. That's what needed to happen. Um, Moving forward, I do have something completely different. I'm working on a thriller about a therapist, and it turns, I don't want to give away the ending. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. So that's something I work on when I have a hot minute. I'm kind of working on it with my th husband a little bit. And then eventually I also have a memoir in me that I would like to put to paper. That one's harder. Writing a thriller is harder than these. I feel like the nonfiction genre for me was easier because having gone and gotten a master's, there is a lot of writing and it feels kind of academic in that sense. So I have more practice at it. I don't have a lot of practice at creative writing, so that's a whole other journey.
I feel like that's so true that a lot of us start with nonfiction, self-help-esque kind of books from what you shared, Rachel. Any advice you have for folks coming into the author journey?
Yeah, pretty similar to LaQuisha. My advice is write a book and write it badly. Just start writing and get it out there and then worry about fixing it later.
Yeah, absolutely. Which book has been the most fun to write? I'll throw that question at you.
I think my favorite is The Aligned Parent because even though it's still nonfiction self-help, it's the most personal to me as a parent. It's not an easy journey for most of us. I've had my own struggles, and then with co-parenting with an ex-husband, co-parenting with remarriage, there's a lot of moving parts. I've got a special needs kiddo. I've got another kiddo who is super eager to please, and that's also something you want to keep an eye on so they don't become too much of a people pleaser. And it's a lot of moving parts. So it was really fun to process that and feel like I had something to say and put out there.
Other questions for Rachel? I can keep throwing them at her, but also I'm sure you all have questions as
It
well.
looks like there's one in the chat about
Oh yeah.
structuring reading time. I didn't. I'll say I'm an Enneagram 4, so I tend to be very um, led by my moods and feelings sometimes, which is something I have to keep an eye on. But I was feeling inspired, so I'd write. I'd be interested to hear how other people had more structure though.
Yeah, other authors feel free to put it in the chat or unmute if you'd like to. LaQuisha, I see you unmuted.
Yeah, I don't think I had a structured time either. I think it was just like how I was feeling, like in that headspace, in that mood, that I would open up my laptop and start writing. Um, but I have I do know some other colleagues of mine who they will literally like block off an hour of their day to say this is that dedicated writing time. I try to do that, it just didn't work for me. I feel like it's a personal preference.
And I see some other responses here in the chat of little structured writing time, 30 minutes, some big in flow states over weekends. But yeah, I suspect for all the authors, y'all can chime in on this, but we don't want it to feel like a chore, because if it feels like a chore, it loses the passion and the fun and any of the motivation, internal motivation that might have been there. That might be my projection on all of you as authors, but I'm just going to name that. Like, we don't want it to feel boring or a chore. Other thoughts? Let's see, how did you structure your books? So Rachel, I don't know if you want to start that off again, since this is your spot of reflecting, because you have a couple different books and I don't know how quickly you wrote them. Other thoughts?
Yeah, so as far as structure, my books have that Enneagram as a framework, which is really helpful because you instantly have like 9 different built-in topics or chapters or however you want to do it. So for example, with this workbook, which is reflects the book itself, it starts with an introduction to the Enneagram. What the heck are we even talking about? And then how does that tie into trauma? Um, and then it has questions about understanding your specific type if you already know it. And some kind of broader things that you can apply to any type for further understanding yourself, like core wounds, resilience, things like that. And then it gets into very type specific things with the 9 different types. So there's a lot of built-in structure with mine. And then it finishes off with some more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not prescriptive, but some more actionable pieces of grounding and regulation, navigating relationships, where to go with all this new information.
Looks like they're curious how quickly you wrote these books with the structure you just named, Rachel.
So I went through them pretty quickly, but I will say I was pretty laser focused. I would come home, sit on the couch, and I would just write until I went to bed. And then weekends, particularly when I didn't have my kiddos and they were with their dad, I would just write sun up to sundown in that flow state. So I'm not sure exactly what it worked out to, but it was quick. It maybe not in terms of hours, but in terms of days or weeks or months, it was quick.
And I see some other authors sharing their experiences here in the chat. We have time for one more question for Rachel before we move to our final author of today. Any final questions for Rachel? Are your books on other platforms besides Amazon? I know I shared your author link to Amazon, but are they found in other spots?
They're all on Amazon right now.
All on Amazon. Got it. Yeah, so that's another curiosity for all authors, where you put it, how you host it. Ingram Spark puts it in different places than Amazon. So that's a conversation to stay curious about for everybody. Well, thank you, Rachel, for that.
Thank
Some people
you.
are saying how long it took them to write. So I'm just noticing that in the chat. But we're going to move to our final author of today, which is Erin Henry. So I'm going to give her the floor.
Hello, good to see you. I'm apologizing in advance for my cold. I sound stuffy and I am a little foggy in the head, so about that. Okay, so I'm Erin Henry. I'm a nature-based and equine-assisted trauma therapist in Denver. I'm almost a first-time author. I'm not saying I'm a first-time author yet because I've been working with Richard and Victoria on finishing my book and getting it launched, which is going to be happening in May. So, um, almost there, which is a fun thing to talk about. So my book is about it's my breast cancer healing journey as a third generation cancer survivor and a clinical social worker. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2020 during COVID, and I wasn't married. I lived alone. I went through a full year of treatment, 6 rounds of chemo, 1 round of targeted chemo, or I'm sorry, 12 years or 12 months of targeted chemo, a double mastectomy, and reconstruction. And as soon as treatment was over, I just went back to being a therapist with a lot of PTSD. And so, and I think that's what we do, right? So I wanted to just keep going. I wanted to jump back into life as I knew it. I built a group practice. I went, 10 steps heavier than I had done before. And eventually I crashed and burned. So the crashing and burning was what led to the book to be written. And the writing was actually part of my therapeutic kind of journey back to self. So when I realized I was crashing and burning as a trauma and attachment therapist, I started noticing that my experience was PTSD. And I had a brain scan with a neurofeedback therapist that showed PTSD, which explained everything. And so when I started researching more about this, I realized that 80% of breast cancer survivors experience significant post-traumatic stress symptoms for up to 1 year after treatment. Some longer, some more. I write about that in the book. And 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. So this is a really a lot of women who are impacted. And the part that led me to the book also was that I couldn't find any clear answers on how to heal from this. There wasn't any books that I found that I liked that were kind of showing me this journey on how to get through this next phase of treatment. So that was the starting point. Fortunately, I have a really incredible mentor in town named Dewey Freeman. He is a local attachment expert, and I called him up and we sat down and we did a whole kind of process where we mapped out what I now call the reconstruction journey, which is the title of the book is Reconstructed. And so I'm mapping out the journey throughout the whole book, mixed with memoirs, mixed with Dewey Freeman's attachment developmental models. I combine that with Judith Herman's triphase model of trauma recovery. And then I memoir it with my mountain trek in Nepal the year before I was diagnosed that kind of prepped me for the journey. And so from that, I also lay out kind of like what this is very memoir meets social work, memoir meets self-help almost, where I lay out, the almost 16 years of clinical experience I have, and I map out a path towards healing that kind of picks up where the medical model leaves off, and just kind of moving through what I call the 9 M's and this reconstruction path. So that's the book. The writing journey, I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I've talked with Kara about that before. So I'm kind of all over the place and I get bored very quickly. I've met with Kara probably a few times throughout the journey. But what started the journey was that I had a friend I met right before I got diagnosed. I was in Bali at a yoga retreat, and I posted my cancer journey on social media during my treatment journey. And so one of my friends at the retreat reached out to me and said, I think we should publish your book, make this into a book. And so I just said, okay, of course, as an enthusiast would. Said, let's do it. So she and I she's been my book coach and my book editor at the same time. And we organically mapped this whole book out together. I think what might be different about my writing experience is that it really was a healing journey. So I was writing as I was healing, and every time I would kind of reach a new phase. And so I kind of had it generally mapped out based on my years of experience, but I would go to another, say, trauma intensive, or I'd go to another retreat or something else would happen and I'd find another healing piece. And then I'd have to go back and write about that and add it to the mix. And it wasn't until December last year of 25 where I finally got my little last missing piece of this puzzle. And I'm sure there's many more, but I'm choosing to stop now, or else I could keep going. So that's kind of been the writing process. I've just, I'm not that structured, but I would feel more like when I felt called to write, I would go write. I think Kara, you and I tried to do structure at one point in time where it was like, well, just 15 minutes a day. And that was helpful advice for a little while. And then I think I had to stop for maybe 6 months and find the next healing piece. I think that was when I was doing intense trauma work. And then after that intense trauma work, I got back to it and kind of had a lot to say. So everything was organic, and then I discovered Richard Wolff, which has been helpful. So, because I talked to Kara, we did some consultation around who could help with the design and who could help with those pieces. And so now we're in this really cool lab phase. I hope that
Yeah,
made
six
sense.
degrees of separation with all the folks in this. If people watch this back, I purposely go back to the people who do workshops or consultation with me and say, hey, you're going to be an author. I want you to be showcased here. So full circle moment for
Yeah,
Erin. Yay.
yeah. Getting so close.
So close. Any questions from the group for Erin on her upcoming book? Ilana?
I have a question. As a therapist, I guess one thing that I find I struggle with is how much, you're going to share a lot about your personal world, and there's all
Yep.
these lines about that. How are you thinking about that? Like, okay, someone picks up your book, they're going to know all this about you, and how does that affect your practice?
I mean, fortunately, I say I'm a very relational therapist. So being that I'm very relational, I'm very authentic, and authenticity and congruency are part of my practice. So, while I may not share in a session, obviously, what I share in my book, but if clients would read the book, because many of them want to read it, I'm sure if they have questions, I'll answer, with appropriateness. And I also think, we talk about with that self-disclosure piece, right, is like we need to be on the other side of it. So what I've written about, I'm on the other side of at this point, and so I'm comfortable sharing those things.
It's really powerful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions for Erin? I know I'm looking forward to reading it when it comes out, Erin. So we're all gonna stalk your social media until you tell us it's
Yay.
launching.
Oh, good. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. It'll be so good.
Any advice for future authors? I know you said like yours came organically. I'm hearing loud and clear, like it's not something
Yeah.
to be forced, but any other advice you'd give them?
Yeah. I just think that like write the book you need or write the book you needed. And the thing that I kept thinking about as I was writing this was, as therapists, we've had to go through so many hours of just sitting face to face with people, thousands, right? That there's this really cool, we have a really cool perspective and expertise and knowledge of being with people all day long that I think is we have important voices. So bringing in the expertise with our clinical knowledge, with our experience, with our ability to be vulnerable, intimate with humans, I think we have voices that should be heard. So no imposter syndrome, write the book and write the book you needed. What do
Make
they
it
say?
sound
Your
so
mess is
simple.
your mess is your message. I thought about that a lot. And it helped like clean up your mess
Beautiful.
while you're writing your message.
Yeah, or like they say, healer's draft or healing draft when you say, I wrote this for me or my younger self. There was a question about when
Mhm.
your book will be released in May. I don't know if you have a set date or if it's just like a to be determined thing.
I think, well, I'm meeting with Victoria, Richard's wife, next on Friday, I think. So we're going to start getting closer to the launch date and have a better idea when we start getting the outline I'm sorry, the interior figured out. So I don't
Yeah, if I
know.
could make one comment
Yes.
about kind of Erin's journey, when she came to us, she said, "Help me understand." Like this happens to every author when they start looking into the publishing process. There's so much information out there, and there's so much information that contradicts everything else so it becomes very confusing. So one of the things she said to me was help me understand what's going on with this publishing process, because I read one thing one day and something counters it the next day. And as an author advocate, that's kind of what I help authors sort through. And then Erin was feeling very confused about where she was going, what she was doing, how she was going to do it. And I think in one session, in person, we kind of had the plan,
Yeah.
of where we're publishing, how we're doing it, what that means for her, what that means for her marketing, where she's going, how she's going to sell herself and her book. So Yeah, the publishing process can be very confusing and very daunting because of all the information out there.
Very. Yes, when I talked to Kara and when I talked to you, Richard, that was when I had the most clarity. So wonderful resources, both of you.
Glad to hear it. So we are at in our last 4 minutes. I have our second sponsor, and I want to give a disclaimer because some of you are going to be like, "Oh my God, it's your doppelganger." So my sister is our second sponsor, and she is a graphic designer of 18 years. She's one of the reasons that my self-published journey was successful in creating some of my book covers. And I like to just name that because when you see her, she's going to look like me and sound like me because she's my identical twin. So for folks watching this back later, don't freak out. Laura, do you want to come on and say hi?
I'm here. I've been listening. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura. Thank you for that nice introduction. I am a graphic designer that's been working since 2014 with my own company. Our team does everything from print, digital, social media, anything you can imagine in the design sphere. But obviously, I'm here today to talk a little bit more about book cover design. I have had the privilege of working with, I think, 3 out of the 5 of you that were featured today on some cover designs in addition to Kara's covers that she mentioned. But the process is as unique as you all are and all of your writing is. So there's a lot of meetings, communication, back and forth proofs. But I think the process is very time consuming but rewarding for an author to see what's inside their brain come to life. And that's really my goal, is to bring what's up here to your book cover. And obviously educate you a little bit more on that process and what we can and can't use. AI is very much in our field these days, but as Erin and I have discussed in the past, it's a great place to have inspiration or concepting, but you don't want to use AI for your book cover because you don't own the rights to it. And obviously you want to have your baby be represented with a cover that belongs to you. That's really just the nutshell. That we could spend hours talking about this, but if anyone has questions about book cover design, obviously you can talk to me or Richard. But I'm very excited for everyone that wants to have the journey of becoming a self-published author and what I can do to be a part of that.
Thanks, Laura. Any questions as we're winding down from today's event? You have information on Richard, you have information on Laura in the chat, also in the Dropbox. I always like to thank the authors for coming on because their imposter syndrome always shows up like in the day before this event where some of them start to message me going, "Oh God, are you sure you want me to talk?" Yes, I wanted all of you to speak, and that all feels very important because your books are amazing. And I have, as already named, 6 degrees of separation with a lot of you because I've been a part of your journey in some way, and that feels really awesome. So this event is recorded. I will make sure it's shared with all of you if you want to share it with your networks, and just can't wait to celebrate and continue to celebrate the books that you've all put out there. So with that, I will let you all go, and I'll connect those of you who got a book as part of a raffle. I'll connect you all by email. Thanks for joining me at this event. And thanks to our sponsors. Take care, everybody.